Okay. It is 7:17, I believe, Tuesday, February 11th, 2020, and we are going to start our regular governing board meeting. Um, Roll call will show that all board members are here. Mrs. O'Brien is here telephone. Mrs. O'Brien, can you say hello, please?
Hello, Mrs. Ordway.
All right, there we go. So we are going to stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag Okay, thank you. Ms. Frank, if we could get into the.
I move that the governing board adopt the agenda with the exception of moving agenda item 8A, preview item, directly following item 3D, and moving the consent agenda following the superintendent's report.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we'll start with our governing board reports. Ms. Tweedy?
Just real quick, first I would like to thank the Deer Valley Education Foundation for all of the grants that they awarded to teachers, and we appreciate all the work that you do. And the second thing, just briefly, I wanted to say is Miss Frank and I did start attending our monthly meetings with some local legislators, and we started last Friday. So we had a really good meeting, and I'd like to thank Representative Carroll. He spent a lot of time talking to us about what we maybe thought were the biggest concerns with teachers in the classroom today, and when we talk about funding. And with that, it would bring me to actually an agenda request I had. I was wondering if at a future board meeting and listening to our conversations about the open enrollment policy, I would wondering and listening to the report on futures last week, if we could have a discussion item about general education behavior and what we plan to do about that moving forward, and hearing that there might only be a trickle effect to gen ed. And I'd really like us and to maybe give some background on why I want to request that. I reading the letter from the site administrators about the open enrollment policy, and knowing when I taught in this district and just what's been going on for so long, is when we have general education extreme behavior problems, a lot of schools don't have any resources to deal with that, meaning to be able to have the child go somewhere where other children can be safe and they can be safe. So on a K-6 campus, that might be like an on-campus detention room, and we don't have anything like that staffed. So these things end up being problematic for the entire staff. And you kind of heard that with the concerns about the open enrollment. But the problem is not all of these students are open enrolled. It's also causing a problem, I believe, with special education, because a lot of students get referred because there's just no resources for the general education student that needs more support. And I would like to see us look at it. And one thing in particular I would like discussed at this when we discuss this is most other schools that I'm aware of, most school districts, they either have an internal program or they send students, if it's extreme and off-campus suspension is not working. A lot of times it's not working. It's a reward. They're not supervised at home, so they misbehave and they play Xbox for 5 days. So I mean, there's nothing else to do with these students in Deer Valley that I'm aware of. Other districts have an alternative to suspension program where these students can go and continue to receive if off-campus suspension's not working. Or the district does fund general education students to go to like an FBI program. it's not just for special education students. But I would like to know if we have any plans to provide more support to schools for students who are having difficulty learning, and because of that, the staff's having difficulty doing their job. If they're chasing a student around and they don't have the staff to do that, I think it's just something I would like to see addressed, and not in 2 years. And I know the open enrollment policy we're going to discuss later. It Even if that passes, which I've already voiced my opinion, but even if that passed, that would only solve the problem for the students who don't reside in the boundary.
So, Ms. Tweedy, wouldn't you rather have that as a study session as opposed to a discussion item?
Okay, could we do it that way? I just want to,
It
I
seems
want
like
to
it would be more
discuss it.
comprehensive, and then we can get our thoughts in and spend some time throwing in what we think, because maybe what we think isn't there, whether we think there's too much or not enough, and this way we can have facts and see what the plans are for the district and how each campus deals with it. Does that sound
And
like
I
a
would
great idea?
second that request for a study session.
Okay, thank you so much. I would just like to see us address that. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Ms. Reed, Mrs. Reed.
I had the opportunity to attend the Superintendent's Interfaith Council breakfast. It was great to see how many different faith-based organizations and churches were represented that come alongside of our schools to support our students. So I'm so thankful for that partnership that they have with us. And then yesterday was the Deer Valley Education Foundation's annual golf tournament.
school district. Currently, the principal of Bel Air School and will be joining Arrowhead in July. Her action will take place as part of consent agenda.
That's my report.
So I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items through 6I.
I second.
And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, I guess we can clap for Principal Dettori. I'm saying good night. Yes, we are up to finance report.
Good evening, President Ordway, Dr. Finch, governing board members, and honored guests. I'm pleased to present the financial reports this evening. There's not a lot of change since last month. I kind of feel like a broken record at this point, but it won't always be this way, I promise. For our student enrollment report, we will start with that. At the end of January, we tracked enrollment through the 107th day, and we're up 0.3% from this time last year. But just as a reminder, we are funded on the average enrollment from the first day through the 100th day. And so for most of the year, we tracked about 0.5% increase. And it was just after winter break that we saw it break just below that 0.5. So overall, we will see actually more than a 0.3 increase, hopefully, by the time the school year is done. As another reminder, we'll know in about July exactly what our ADM is for this. We will see, speaking of the increase in students and future budgets, that will be something that's going to just be coming down the line for you as well. So please be prepared for that in the coming months. We'll figure out exactly what this increase means for the district now that we're past the 100th day. Again, even though we're predicting what the amount will be for this year, and we won't know till this year is over. Any questions about enrollment at this time?
I hope we don't disappoint you, but we have none.
No, that's okay. I know you're just saving them all up for one special day. We'll move right into the M&O budget report. We are seeing very little changes from the report that we presented from December. We are projecting about a $50,000 increase in our carry forward we were about $750,000 in carry forward when we presented last month. And we are predicting about $807,000. We're still seeing a lot of those. A lot of the carry forward, if you will see, is in classified staff contracts, and most of those are from those unfilled positions that we have, including custodians and paraprofessionals. And I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding the M&O budget report as well.
Happy Valentine's Day. No questions for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next report is curriculum instruction and assessment, career and technical education.
President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and guests, as you heard, this month, February, is Career and Technical Education Month. And if you saw anything with our 3 state officers, you know that the programming in CTE is simply amazing. Miss Jamie Fitzpatrick, who is our manager in technical education, is going to share some of those amazing opportunities and programs and information that really surrounds all of our career and technical education programs.
Thank you. Just waiting for the slides.
Awkward silence.
Alrighty, we'll catch you.
You can talk. We don't need all the pictures because we know you know everything that's in the pictures.
The pictures are the fun part. Good evening, President Ordway, Superintendent Finch, members of the governing board. Happy CTE month. We are honored to be here tonight to share the CTE narrative in Deer Valley Unified School District. Throughout the 2019-2020 school year, the CTE staff and teachers have worked to improve and enhance career and technical education programs to provide extraordinary instructional, leadership, and work-based learning experiences for all students. Tonight, I will share with you a brief overview of district CTE data, current school year initiatives, work-based learning highlights, and current climate conditions in career and technical education. I hope that you enjoyed hearing our student perspective from Neil, John, and Catherine earlier this evening. Later tonight, we look forward to the proclamation of February as CTE Month in DVUSD by President Ordway. CTE by the numbers. Deer Valley has 22 unique satellite programs across 5 high schools with 7 to 10 programs delivered at each campus. CTE in our district saw an increase of almost 10% in program enrollment this year in satellite and central programs for the 1920 school year. We welcomed Air Force JROTC into the CTE family, mutually benefiting both entities. The superior leadership and professional skills of the JROT students and teachers shine through in our CTE departments at Deer Valley and Sandra Day O'Connor High Schools. The addition of advanced level, second, third, and fourth year courses in the software and app design programs at all 5 campuses have our students working with technologies such as mobile app design, Java programming, 3D printing, and digital coding devices with Arduino boards. Local employers are currently hosting over 60 senior student interns, many in paid positions in organizations including JW Marriott, Grad's Photography, Farmers Insurance, and ACSS. And lastly, as you can see from the slide data, DVUSD students are earning industry certifications and passing the CTE technical skills assessments at a rate approaching 90%. With new initiatives beginning this year, we plan to see this data trend continue. In spring of 2019, DVSD began consultation with Mark Perna and TFS Solutions to launch a systemic recruitment and retention plan. This team of approximately 20 stakeholders includes CTE teachers, counselors, campus administrators, and district leaders. The work of Mr. Perna with our team has begun to change the way staff have conversations with students and families to make educational decisions. The impact of making informed, yet flexible decisions will result in greater numbers of students on a path with clear goals in mind, reduced education debt, and a positive economic contribution. The career tree, which you'll find some examples in the folders that we provided for you this evening, will be used as a central tool in student decision-making both prior to and during their journey in a CTE program. And we provided you with just a few examples of our career trees. Westmex funding affords us the opportunity to provide these tools for all CTE teachers and programs at every campus. Career trees are customized by CTE teachers, depicting high-wage, in-demand careers within a CTE program at the entry, technical, and professional levels, and will be used as a resource for promotion, recruitment, and instruction, beginning with a soft rollout in late spring and a full implementation in August of 2020. Work-based learning continues to be a priority in Deer Valley, and there's a snapshot on this slide of our school-based enterprises in action. And our school-based enterprises are businesses that are run by students for students within our CTE programs and are just one example of work-based learning that we offer. Westmex Equipment Grant allows us to continually augment and improve the facilities, including our graphic design print shops, student stores, and the popular Avenue 27 fine dining restaurant. Urge you to make your reservations as they're booking up very quickly for the remainder of this spring. All CTE programs are required by statute to provide every student with 120 hours of embedded, authentic work-based learning over the duration of a program. This continuum begins with exposure to industry professionals through guest speakers and career development field trips, progressing to mentor relationships, school-based enterprise, and clinical or practicum field hours, and concluding with the senior year internship option. Each CTE program offers a unique delivery to achieve work-based learning goals and provide experiences based on industry standards and practices. DVUSD continues to be fortunate to work with many large Valley employers as well as local entrepreneurs to partner in a continuum of opportunities within our programs. Many of these companies, as you see pictured above, joined us on October 3rd for our district-wide Fall Advisory Council and have continued to work with our CTE students and teachers all year long. A sampling of these corporations that DVUSD CTE works with and ways these businesses and CTE programs collaborate in mutually beneficial partnerships is portrayed on the slide. Discover Financial most recently joined us to judge a practice CTSO competition for DECA and FBLA students preparing for state competitions. This event was held February 4th at the West MEC Northeast campus and was coordinated by Debbie Kidwell, the CTE Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Specialist. These industry connections and experiences are vital in developing our students' professional and technical skills. Career and technical education programs are monitored and reviewed by the Arizona Department of Education and WestMec to ensure compliance with all federal funding mandates, including access and equity for all students, program delivery model, and delivery of the CTE technical standards, as well as achievement on state and federal performance measures and fiscal responsibility with expenditures of funds and management of equipment, inventory, and facilities. This slideshow shows current and future accountability, as well as the timeline for you as well. DVUSD fiscal year 2020 federal Perkins funding currently stands at $590,485 and state priority funding at $287,000 with slight additional funds expected on March 1st. Through WestMec, our CTED allocation for the current school year is just over $1.3 million. DVUSD ensures CTE programs that are both high quality and compliant with all legislation. Within the strict guidelines of fund uses, the dedicated CTE funding stream provides for building and maintaining state-of-the-art industry facilities, providing industry standard equipment and supplies, support of current technical student organization activities, professional development, and salaries for classified and select certified employees at the campus level, and all administrative and technical support salaries. With DVUSD governing support this year, we were able to welcome a new CTE data specialist and an additional PC technician. Perkins 5 implementation directed CTE expenditures with greater accountability and direction of funds to bridge equity gaps. Additionally, we were able to modernize the film and TV studio at Barry Goldwater High School this summer, launch the recruitment and retention effort with the services of Mark Perna, provide professional development for teachers and counselors, and update computer and industry equipment throughout all 5 high schools. Fiscal year 21 will bring the first stream of funds from Governor Ducey's industry certification incentive based on FY19 graduate results on industry credential exams in select business sectors. Funds can be expended for costs such as exam fees and curriculum materials for students to practice and prepare for certification exams. Fiscal year 21 brings the most comprehensive and rigorous credentials list as approved by the Arizona State Board of Education. While there are several CTE bills in the current legislature in Arizona, those listed above are of the most significant impact to us. Funding for CTE internships and fourth-year funding would significantly provide funding to grow opportunities for all CTE programs and students. Other legislative topics that may impact CTE include apprenticeships, state-level program evaluations, CTED governing board composition, and CTED partnerships with private industries and universities. CTE is proud of the students and staff receiving award recognition to date this school year. We've got just a few examples on the slide from each of our high schools and our community. Please take a moment to view our monthly CTE snapshots communication for a comprehensive list of all of our student and staff achievements. Thank you for joining us in celebrating CTE Month and for your continued support of CTE programs here in Deer Valley.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I have a question for you. Is Mark going to be with us? I mean, he's going to be here until the end of this school year? I mean, at certain times.
Yeah, so we've currently retained the services of Mark for this school year. Our plan is this will be, he's working with our teams quarterly, and then our plan is he'll stay with us for about 3 years, working with our team in fully implementing the recruitment and retention plan.
So, as a Valentine's gift from CTE to the board, maybe we could get him invited just to sit really quiet in a corner when he's doing his stuff one of these days.
Yep, I will get that to Sheila, and he'll be back April 14th and 15th, and our high school principals and some of our district administrators will join us on the 15th as
He's
well.
a fascinating guy anyway. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, so it is, no, we moved up item 8A, preview of the 2021-22 district calendar option.
Well, look who it is. It's the calendar lady.
Good evening, President Ordway, members of the board, and Dr. Finch. It is my pleasure to be here to present to you recommendations for the 21-22 calendar. And if I can go forward.
Please don't go backwards.
I'm pushing the arrow.
Yeah, we rearranged the order, so he'll get it.
Rearrange the order.
Yeah.
So can we get to it? Oh, okay.
You know, we moved you up, right? So we gotta.
I appreciate you moving me forward this evening.
Of course.
While we're waiting, I'll just ask, are any of my committee members here? There, yes, past committee members. I do wish to thank, while we're just waiting, all of the committee members that have served on this committee. A lot of them have served for many, many years, so they have an understanding of the calendar as we look at them from year to year. We have 6 parents on our committee, 1 community member, 2 district administrators, 2 campus administrators, 3 certified employees, thank you, 2 classified employees, and I have acted as facilitator for 99 years, okay? For as long as we can remember, right? The purpose of the calendar committee is to discuss options for the 2021-22 calendar and bring recommendations to the board for review. We do not discuss staff development and early release days. Those days are determined by the district. Many people think that we are the ones that determine those days, but we do not. So what we're looking at are start, end, on holidays, basically. I just want to review the 2021 calendar, which you have adopted already. Last year, you did ask us to take a survey of parents because we had gotten input. Some people liked a week off at Thanksgiving. Some wanted 3 days off. We went back and forth. We kind of wanted to get a feel from the community, so we actually did a survey last year, and the recommendations from the community came at a 4-day fall break at some point and the full week at Thanksgiving. And so in that light, I just wanted to remind you, because I've gotten several emails of people, and I had to remind them that we did actually take a survey and we did get community input. So this is our calendar. If you're looking at it, it is similar to what we have basically, but we will be having that full week and 4 days starting on August 3rd. And then September 7th is, of course, Labor Day. And then we have a fall break day in September, which coincides with one of our Jewish holidays, which is something that we do. We have 4 days in October for that 4-day fall break. We have, of course, Veterans Day, a full week at Thanksgiving. We have our 10 days for the winter holiday. We have President's Day. We have Martin Luther King, January, and then President's Day. We have our week at spring. We have Good Friday, which coincides on April 2nd, and then we're ending our calendar on May 20th. So that was the calendar that is already already adopted and approved and posted, but just as a reminder to where we're at. I did look at other districts and always like you to take a look at them. When we look at Peoria, I always look at Peoria because Peoria gets first choice of dates at State Farm Stadium for graduations. Tolleson is second, and we are third. And so sometimes we have to be creative to fit into that scenario. So for the 21-22 calendar that you see in Peoria, they are starting on Wednesday, August 4th. They take similar days, of course, Columbus Day. They take they're taking a full week for Thanksgiving. I do want to draw attention to this next item here. December 17th, they call it is a teacher work day, so students do not go to classes. So that actually makes their winter break 11 days. They have the same, they do not honor Good Friday, but basically their calendar is very similar to ours. In looking at Paradise Valley, they take 2 recesses in September to honor both Jewish religious holidays. They take 3 days at Thanksgiving. They also have what they call a K-12 recess day, December 17th, giving them 11 days on the winter break. And then they honor Good Friday also. So and they're starting a little bit later for Paradise Valley. And then Glendale Union, and looking at that, they are starting a little later also, August 9th, and they take a full week. And then when we look at their winter break, they have no students. They call it offices open on December 17th, and on January 3rd, they have no students. So they actually give 12 days for their winter break. And they do not take Good Friday. What we have here is reason we have some later starts and some earlier starts is that Memorial Day happens to fall later. But in order to keep semesters even, some of the schools end that week earlier. And then Scottsdale has not posted their at least when I did my report, did not post their 2022 or 21-22 calendar. The considerations that the committee looks at is a student-centered calendar. Our graduation dates are set for 2022 for May 16th and 17th. The last day of school for students will be May 19th. And the reason I brought up how the other districts have more days than 10 for winter break is because the district has asked us this year, instead of having 181 contact days, we can have 180. They have readjusted bell schedules and things in order to have the minutes work out, but that we can go back to 180 student contact days. We always want to be in school for PSAT testing. Thanksgiving, 1 week. We wish to end the semester before winter break. Winter break is state law says you can have 10 days. But as you can see, many districts take more by how they call an extra day off here or there. And so we've decided, the powers that be met with me and asked us to go back to 180 and put back in a staff development day, which they suggested we do on January 3rd, which would be the day you return. So students would actually end up with 11 days, and teachers would be back then. We like to balance our days off per semester and balance the days in the semesters, so the calendars we're bringing you are all 90-90, so they are equal balanced days. So I explained we do honor one Jewish holiday in the fall, either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, depending on where they fall in the calendar, and we do honor Christmas and Good Friday. We also like to look at, when we can, the implications of start and end days and holidays on attendance and working parents. And so we have 3 recommendations we are bringing to you for your consideration this evening. And I know these are small, so I'll kind of think you have bigger ones in front of you. So option A, and we had one committee member vote give their preference for this calendar to start on August 3rd, Tuesday. September 6th and 7th would become a 4-day fall break. It happens to coincide with Rosh Hashanah on September 7th. Columbus Day, we have found when we don't take it, people take it anyway, so we put in Columbus Day. November 11th is, of course, Veterans Day, our week at Thanksgiving. We have 10 days for winter break, and then we have a staff development day on January 3rd, giving 11 days for students. January 17th, of course, and February 21st are Martin Luther King and President's Day. Our spring break, March 14th to 18th. April 15th coincides with Good Friday, ending school May 19th, having our graduations May 16th and 17th at the stadium. So that is option A. Option B, 10 committee members recommend this one. It simply backs up one day to August 2nd, has the same September break, but it gives a 4-day break in October also by putting in October 12th next to Columbus Day, and then the rest of the calendar mirrors option A. So that's option B. And option C, which had 4 committee members, starts again, it backs up, it's to Monday. And what this calendar recommends was the 4 days in September, Columbus Day, but we discussed attendance because Veterans Day falls on November 11th, what would happen on the 12th, that this would be a day that people might just take off. And so in this calendar, we've put that as a holiday day anyway. And then the rest of the calendar mirrors the other two. So those are the 3 calendars that our committee is bringing forth this evening for your review. Is there, or may I answer any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Not necessarily for you. Thank you. Dr. Finch, is this being put out for staff to weigh in on by chance?
I don't know, but talk to my team. How do we disseminate, or do they gather first and the information came in first and then design the calendar? Jim or Gail want to answer that?
Well, what are the committee members that are staff on the committee for to?
Yes, I have
Okay.
3 certified and 2 classified staff members representing the staff, and 6 for the community.
Yes, Ms. Tweedy.
I think to Miss Reed's point, it would be nice now because they helped develop the 3 options to hear some feedback from the staff or the community. The thing that's happened to me frequently when we vote on calendars is I hear all sorts of feedback after we've approved one. And it would just be really nice to hear any feedback that people have on these, because we're supposed to pick one of the options. So just to hear feedback on these options from people before we vote would be nice.
We can probably run a survey too. I don't know, I have to have Dr. Smith and see if we can run something out that would give people their chance to vote on it.
Yeah, that would be very
The
helpful.
timeline is
if we could do
tight,
that.
obviously, with a preview. So a couple weeks to get it done.
I also receive probably 20 emails a year from the community because they all kind of know, they find out that I'm chairman of the committee. And a lot of the questions that come in, if you're going to just put the calendars out, it is my recommendation that you also explain why we do what we do, because people do not understand it. They just say, well, I think we have too many breaks. I don't think we should do this. I think I want to have the 3 days back at Thanksgiving. And I had to remind like about 5 different people who did email me that we did take a survey, to get the input. And that's the only, but yes, I mean, there are many ways to get more input if you are interested
So perhaps
in that.
oh, I'm sorry, Karen.
Yeah, it's
I-
just that so many people don't understand some of the considerations that we take into
But I think it would be a survey looking at options
Yes.
that have been developed.
Sure.
Not
So-
coming up with a new option.
Right.
Right.
No.
Oh,
A, B,
just
and C.
taking these three options and putting them out. Certainly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do decide to do a survey, Dr. Smith back there giving you more.
Where
more
is he? I
jobs.
see him shrinking though. Where did he go?
Maybe Karen, would you be willing to work with him to come up with an explanation of each of the calendars as a rationale as to why these dates were picked by the committees, similar to what you told
Well,
us in
yeah,
the
it-
presentation?
Right. The considerations to at least put that into a opening.
Right, knowing that we
Narrative.
work backwards from
Yeah.
graduation
Yes.
dates at the
Surely.
stadium,
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
and perhaps only having the three options with zero choice to make a fourth and a half.
Mrs. Ordway.
Okay.
Mrs.
Mrs. Ordway.
O'Brien.
Yes, Mrs. O'Brien. I'm looking and I don't see you.
If I could make a suggestion, because the committee does have all of this background and Karen does an incredible job of educating everybody, because calendar A only received one vote from a committee of 15, I would move that we
A question and a comment. So, looking at option B had 11 committee members and option C had 4 committee members. Was it an even mix of parents and teachers? Or did parents lean more towards one? The parents who were committee members lean more towards one, and the teachers or staff who are on the committee lean more towards one.
Oh, if I can find that, I can tell you. Hold on. I have that information somewhere. We had, let's see. One, let's see, I had four, five of the parents were in favor. Almost all of the parents were in favor of option B. C were all administrators and staff.
Okay. I just have a comment about option C. I'm looking at the month of November and having those 2 days off, the 11th and 12th, and then a full week followed by a full week off. I'm just thinking back to my days in the classroom. I can imagine parents might take the 10th off, and so you'll be missing students. That's going to impact instruction. And then let's face it, the 19th, they're all going to be excited to have a week off. So I'm just seeing a lot of lost instructional time in November when you have two fairly long, a 2-day break and then a week after that, a full day break. I just know what that would have done to my lesson planning.
That was
just
part of our discussion. Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's the one that the employees and
Pardon?
was that the one that the employees and the administrators liked?
Yes, that was the one more of
Yeah,
the
that's
yes.
one that as a teacher I would not want.
Okay, so
B had all of the parents and community members.
so then we're set that Dr. Smith will work something out. Mrs. O'Brien, do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay, so that brings us to public comments. And we had 6 that the
And they all wanna
boundaries in
speak
open
in
enrollment
public.
want to speak now. Okay, so we have I'm going to just read the names, and as I call your name, if you can step forward to the microphone and then I'll line up.
Or
Probably
sit. They could probably sit in those chairs too.
or sit in the chairs in the front row. And I'm going to do my best to pronounce everyone's name correctly. Melanie Dickerson, Jackie Duarte, Jennifer, is it Hoppes? Hoppes. Okay. Jillian Jones, Stephen Wetzel, is it Matthew Charles? No. Matthew. You're the only Matthew here. So I will go ahead and read the admonishment. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Okay, so if you could please state your name into the microphone for the record.
It's Melanie Dickerson. So good evening. My name is Melanie Dickerson, and I'm a proud parent of a Sonoran Foothills second grader. She's sitting over there, and a North Gateway resident. I'm also have the honor of being the current Sonoran Foothills PTSA president, a frequent school volunteer, and a passionate advocate for our Deer Valley Unified School District students and teachers. As the PTSA president, our board's mission for the past 2 years has been to build a supporting, positive community within our school. We love our school, and whether we are fundraising for one-to-one technology or we're setting up for a school-wide event, the hours and the effort are worth it when we see the kids excited and the families engaged. 5 years ago, many of my neighbors, which are sitting over there, and I were rezoned for we were rezoned from an existing Deer Valley Unified School District school to Sonoran Foothills. Moving schools is never easy, but Sonoran Foothills became our home. We were all new together. And as PTSA president, I can tell you that the families in my neighborhood are some of the most engaged, active, and giving families at our school. Many of these parents are here tonight and they truly are the heart and the spirit of Sonoran Foothills. With news of the current rezoning, we were all disheartened to hear that we were to be relocated yet again. We love Sonoran Foothills, but understand the difficult decisions which had to be made. We took some solace that we would at least be attending School 31 and that we would all be new on this new adventure together. Unfortunately, the boundary map, which was adopted at the last governing meeting, is not the same map that we were presented at the community meeting. And as recently as January 22nd, at the quarterly PTSA presidential luncheon that I attended, the boundary map in the packet that I received and I brought with me tonight shows that our area was zoned for School 31. And unfortunately, this is not the map that is being advertised now. And it also says that it was adopted. It says it on there. It's adopted new school elementary boundary lines. We are now slated to return to a school that we came from 5 years ago. Our children will now be the new students at an established school. We've been preparing our children for this change for the last month, but now that they have even more uncertainty on their plates. You can feel it at the school. The kids are confused, sad, and not sure where they will end up. I do not envy the difficult decisions that you have already had to make and the ones yet to be made. I would appeal to you to consider that we, my neighbors and I, are Deer Valley Unified School District families. We are Deer Valley Unified School District supporters and advocates. We are more than numbers or lines on a map. Please do not cause us to disengage or potentially leave the district altogether. We are asking that the map displayed. We're asking that the map displayed and discussed previously now be brought forward for a vote and approval. If it is not possible, we ask that you review the current open enrollment policies across the district for the transition to take place. With the confusion and the uncertainty of the last several weeks, we have not been afforded the opportunity to take appropriate actions under the current first come, first served system. We delayed in open enrolling our children at School 31 and Sonoran Foothills due to the maps we were presented. And now we will go to the bottom of a very long line of potential open enrollment. And as current Sonoran Foothills students and district residents, our applications should be considered with priority regardless of the time submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, we will be discussing this matter later in the meeting. Okay. Jackie
Yes,
Duarte?
it is Jackie Duarte. Good evening, everyone. I am here to speak this evening on the loyalty and retention payment. It is a request that you please reconsider adding school nurses to the list to receive this additional payment. I'm familiar with the statute that Mr. Miglerino presented to me, as well as the definition that was derived from this, that our district has determined that the position that qualifies for our loyalty payment are campus-based positions that directly impact or support student learning, and we're told that nurses do not do this. So I was thinking that if you had a little bit more information about some of the things that we did, that might make a decision a little bit different. First off, students need to be able to see and hear in order for them to be able to start the learning process. To date, we have already screened over 45,000 students for hearing and vision screenings, referred those that needed further assistance, for example, with our audiology department. They're on the list. Over 31,000 students have already been seen and given medications. Medicine that will afford those students, for example, those with ADHD, to be able to be more focused, to be in the classroom. That would also affect how they will be able to gain skills that's necessary for them to be able to be successful. We've already seen over 34,000 students with variety of illnesses, over 20,000 seen from minor to major injuries, and we were able to assess those students, give them first aid, get them back to classes with those interventions, and return them to class so that they too will be supported in the educational process. Nurses are the first ones to see those students and support them if they have mental health illnesses, or we console them. We also then send them on to the different counselors, psychologists who are also on the list. We also inform, notify, educate teachers, staff of all of the medical conditions that the students have that may affect the learning process and help them in deciding what accommodations might be necessary. Nurses monitor students that are on diabetes for hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia, just to make sure that these changes are not affecting them either minimally or in a negative way, do not affect learning. We help to initiate the exclusions and exemptions process, also the homebound, teach students. We are 504 coordinators, we are exam proctors. We look at the whole child when we are taking care of them. So nursing is a campus-based position that do in fact impact and support student learning, as do the other qualifying positions that's previously been identified. Schools do not operate as silos. It takes the entire team, a village, if you will, to gain the optimum learning experience for our students. Again, I humbly ask that the qualifying list be reviewed and revised to include school nurses for the loyalty retention payment. Our role and duties do impact and support student learning, and I thank you so much for listening this evening and for your considerations.
Dr. Finch, can you provide information to the board on why school nurses were excluded from the payment?
Sure.
As well as any other positions
About
that were
2,000
excluded?
employees are not, and
And
1,500,
I would
2,000
also
are not in.
like to look at if there are other funds available to give them a comparable payment or comparable bonus, even if it doesn't come from the loyalty retention funds.
Yeah, we can thank our legislature for this treat. They create have and have nots, and so yeah, we can give you that information. We have that. We also have the list of in our system that don't qualify, including.
But I guess what I'm asking is, are there other funds that the district has? I think we should look at that. So I'd like to see that on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Because even if we can't use those state funds for those individuals, I think as a district, we need to take care of everybody. So
Sure. I think also too, I think we need to get out of this. I won't be recommending it our next 3-year plan to use this concept because of the way it creates it. So, but yeah, we can get that information for you.
thank you. Jennifer Hoppus?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Hoppus. I live in the North Gateway neighborhood. My kids currently go to Sonoran Foothills, but we are part of the new boundary change. This will be our third school in the 6 years that we've lived here because of boundary changes. And changing schools is never easy, but we try to embrace it and put a positive spin on it for our kids. This is what we did when we learned we were going to Sonoran Foothills, and this is what we did when we learned we were in the School 31 boundary. We told our kids it's going to be good. All the kids will be new because it's a new school. Some of your Sonoran Foothills friends will be there too. Now we are learning that we have to go to Norterra. This is an established school where our kids will know no one. Only 2 neighborhoods that were in the Sonoran Foothills boundary are being put into the Norterra boundary, and those are North Gateway and Collins Creek. We are being moved from Sonoran Foothills and then further divided from our Sonoran Foothills family that live on the east side of North Valley Parkway, because that is now the boundary line, as I've been told. The map that shows us going to School 31 uses the canal and the wash as the border. That is the map that should be used. Because of this map discrepancy, we have missed that early open enrollment window, and the odds of us getting open enrollment at School 31 or Sonoran Foothills has most likely passed. I know this is a hard decision for you guys to make, but when making this decision, please keep in mind these are our children's educations and well-beings at stake, not just enrollment numbers or a boundary line on a map. Please don't alienate North Valley or North Gateway and Collins Creek by using North Valley Parkway as the boundary line. We need to stay in the School 31 boundary. Thank you.
Thank you. Jillian Jones?
Hi, my name is Jillian Jones. I spoke at the board meeting 2 weeks ago about DVUSD's unfair practice of waitlisting special ed students while approving open enrollment for other students. Today, I wanted to share with you some data around this issue. Through a public information request to the district, I obtained open enrollment information for gen ed and special ed students from the past 5 years. This data shows that open enrollment requests for general education students are approved at more than twice the rate of that of special ed students, and that this gap has steadily widened over the past several years. In fact, for the current school year, 81% of open enrollment requests from general ed students were approved versus only 25% from special ed students. What's worse is that 61% of families with special needs students were left in limbo on a waiting list. This report was emailed to the board on February 2nd. I mentioned in my previous comments to the board that my son has severe dyslexia, but he is also highly gifted nonverbally with a visual spatial index in the 99.9th percentile. He is obsessed with Legos and robotics, so I thought the STEM Academy at Canyon Springs would be a great fit for him. If he did not have an IEP, I would have no trouble in open enrolling him there, but because he has a learning disability, he will likely be denied this opportunity. As Vice President Frank said at the last board meeting, services should follow the student, not the other way around. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act states that a student's home school is required to provide for the special educational needs of that student. But this district's practice of denying or permanently waitlisting students with IEPs and just defaulting them to their home school tells us that you only care for the needs of our special children because you have to and not because you want to. It is no less unfair to tell a special needs students that they have to attend their home school, and if they don't like it, they can move, than it is to tell a person in a wheelchair that they have to eat at the one restaurant that has a ramp. ADA law requires all businesses to provide accessibility for persons with disabilities so that those people can have a choice. And that is what we are asking for. The choice of finding the school that best fits our children and an equal opportunity to enroll in that school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Stephen Wetzel?
Stephen Wetzel, like the pretzel store.
We're hungry. Watch out.
Oh, well, it's that time. My name is Stephen Wetzel. I'm hoping to impress upon a couple points for your consideration this evening. Being that I have my children have a relationship with a member on the board, and also a couple field trips under the belt as well with Julie. I feel like I'm hoping that your consideration will be open tonight. I was part of a 90s, Peoria school district in the 90s, where we changed 4 different zonings within a matter of 6 years. And so going through that was semi-detrimental for myself and my siblings during that time, being that my child always have been through it once in the Deer Valley School District. I can already see the challenges that may face my daughter and son. We feel like in the community that some of the changes that have been made in the last recent months were made with little consideration of North Gateway. Being that we have a substantial amount of students that go to Sonoran Foothills, we would really like to be able to be in consideration and priority for the children we've actually signed up for out of zone privileges to go to the school. The community North Gateway has a lot of talented and passionate children that we hope be able to continue their short elementary careers at Sonoran Foothills. And we don't want to affect the parents and children's, as well as the entire families and friendships that have been leveraged through our time at Sonoran Foothills. So we hope for your consideration.
Thank you.
And then Matthew?
Good evening. My wife and I purchased a house in the North Gateway community 3 years ago after doing extensive research on schools and gathering feedback from numerous other families with children in these schools. We made the decision we did to ensure that our children would be able to attend Sonoran Foothills and, being dependent on bus transportation, be zoned for that school. Our daughter has had and continues to have a great experience with Sonoran Foothills. Unfortunately, we were disappointed to find out late in 2019 that our community would no longer be owned for Sonoran Foothills. We once again gathered feedback from other families with children in other schools, and were relieved to find out that we would not be zoned for Norterra Canyon, which we had received concerns about, but instead would be starting a new school in Union Park, where several neighbors from across the street and in our community would all be gathered together starting anew. We followed this closely and were excited for the principal and other programs the school offered. Our daughter has been excited, and they've been rallying with their friends, getting ready to go to the school. We already completed and submitted paperwork for Union Park enrollment for both of our daughters. Unfortunately, last Friday, I noticed on a Facebook post on our community board that there may have been some miscommunication with the map, and that our community would potentially be zoned differently. For reasons I previously stated, this raised great concern for us and has caused significant confusion in our community, many of which still assume their children are headed to Union Park. I'd like to ask that the original zoning map that assigned the neighborhood to Union Park be honored to alleviate this confusion. While there may seem to be a lot of people from this community speaking tonight, I assure you this is a small percentage of the group who share this view, many of whom are still unaware of the change in the zoning map. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so then we have some more public comments coming at an agenda item.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us to old business.
Yes.
Yeah. Item 5A. I move that the governing board approve recommended language changes to policy JFB, open enrollment.
I second.
Ms. Moffett, did you want to go over that?
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. President Ordway, governing board members, Dr. Finch, there should be a PowerPoint. This is the same PowerPoint that you have seen over the last two meetings. But I do want to point out for you, as I did in the Friday update, that we have added some language to the proposed policy. So you're going to see that. Let me see, I'll move forward. It's under admission standards. If you look through the policy, we added language to further outline the factors that we consider for capacity to assist anyone that were to read this policy to have a better understanding of all of the things that we do have to review in order to determine whether or not we have capacity in a general education classroom or in a special education classroom.
Does anyone have any questions?
No.
Or do you want Ms.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So in statute and in the recommend and in our language, it says that the governing board is to approve the amount of open enrollments once our numbers have been established. And I think, if I remember correctly, the last meeting, those numbers are established in the Gold Book, correct, Heather? I think that's where we get our numbers from. Is that right?
So the Gold Book includes our roll up, what we expect from this year, and some of the open enrollment. We might actually see different numbers once it comes to the start of the school year because we actually are continually accepting open enrollment. And so it is a best guess as of the time that the Gold Book is published. So it does include some, but it's not going to be all inclusive.
Okay.
I can also add to that for clarification. The Gold Book is going to outline our FTE, but we adopt contingency staffing as well. And so what Heather is referencing is our weekly review of enrollment, including potential open enrollment that to trigger the use of that contingency staffing. Okay. So the board does adopt all of that when they adopt the budget at the end of the year, future year.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. My concern is that we're supposed to be, as a governing body, deciding how many or percentage of open enrollments our district is allowing or our schools are allowing. And, you know, I wasn't a part of that last year. I don't know if the governing board has ever been a part of that or if
Well,
that is rolled into something else.
Mrs. Reed, could you clarify in the policy the area that you're referencing?
Yeah, give me just 1 second. If anybody else has another question while I'm looking for where it is.
Go ahead, Miss Tweedy.
Well, I had a few questions. I guess I'm still not really comfortable with what we're doing. I'm certainly not comfortable with revoking students' open enrollment in the middle of the year, so I've already expressed that. I would request we leave the language in the policy. The other thing, I don't really understand our open enrollment procedures because for SPED or Gen Ed, because I understand if the school's full when we can't fit students. The ones where we say if we take another student, we don't take them because it would trigger another teacher at that grade level. As long as I've been teaching, we have no idea until the first day of school who's actually showing up. So many people withdraw their kids the first day of school or enroll them late. We truly don't. And we know that because every year we end up having to surplus people. So I'm not really sure why we're even declining open enrollment for that reason, because we truly don't know until the first day of school who's going to show up, who didn't withdraw their kids in time. And that changes unless there's just no room at the school. And I would think for SPED or Gen Ed. And so to me it seems, and I would like an explanation as to the higher percentage, the parent that spoke for the declining of the students with IEPs.
Miss Tweedy, could let her answer the first two and then keep your space to where you are right now, but let her answer the first two.
So one of the questions that I recall is why are we not just allowing everybody that's asking for open enrollment to have open enrollment? First I'll say that we largely do. When we're in priority status time, we largely accept the majority of those people, with the exception of campuses that have physical capacity limitations and that are already busting at the seams. Perhaps that's an exaggeration. Not all are busting at the seams, but they are enrolled at a high level. So those administrators work with their teachers and make decisions based on how many sections they do want to add. They don't believe they might be maintaining 4 or 5 sections at a grade level, and they don't feel that they can manage a 6th, either through master schedule planning or physical capacity. Where's the classroom going to go? In those cases, we would limit the open enrollment. It could also be that there are not enough people enrolling at that location to cause us yet to trigger a staff member. But I guarantee you that we do that. We do that all spring for next year. If we see there are enough open enrollment applications that have come in, we have a conversation with that principal and that team. And then we talk to the finance department and we add another section because we do see indeed there are enough open enrollment applications to add another classroom. If we were to do it on one student alone, trigger an entire new section with one student alone, I guess it would go back to your point, we're not sure that they're going to show up. And we could cause a situation that would be surplus come fall. So we do like to have a little bit more assurance that that extra section is going to fill. So we have that dialogue opens with the campus to determine whether or not we will open those sections. And we do not only do that in the spring, but because we have contingency staffing, we do that in June and July and try and make as many of those decisions as possible before the first student day. But sometimes we make those decisions to add additional sections because of open enrollment past the first student day.
Go ahead.
I guess what I would like information on is how many schools actually have the number you thought show up the first day. Because if you say to the reverse of what you're saying, you accept that student, it would have triggered another teacher with one, and we don't because we wait and see if they hold the numbers. before you trigger another teacher if they show
Sometimes.
up. And
Sometimes.
and so say 2 students withdraw on the first day and you accepted that one, the problem balances itself.
That's right.
I have never, I don't want to say never, but I would almost say at least 99% of the time, 100% of my roster does not show up on the first day. So we probably do have this space. Like, I don't even, do you see what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying. I wouldn't say that that's a general rule. However, we do have campuses that have significant amounts of requests to open enroll, and we have other campuses that have very little. And so, should we allow all to come, we just wouldn't be able to do that.
I get when they don't fit at the school. I'm not thinking we should accept kids that don't fit at a school. I guess I would just be curious. I'm not sure how this would be reported. On the first day of school, how many people are showing up? Like, what percentage doesn't show up that we thought was?
So, so you're looking for actual versus estimation.
I think something that I learned when I came here is the elaborate system of checks and balances as the year ticks along. It's very complex.
Yeah.
We don't pull the trigger, quote unquote, until like the 10th day. So it isn't day one. We wait till we have different trigger points where we actually start making decisions. So to your point, we don't make decisions off day one. It's do you hold that number? Or do you not hold on? Maybe you can explain a little bit, but that's very quite complex.
That is true, Dr. Finch. But we do, when the data is showing that it warrants, we will initiate the staffing prior to the 10th student day. As I said before, we try to make as many of these decisions as we can before the first student day because we don't want to cause all of that movement and cause hardship for the students or the staff. So if we can, and we see that there are enough requests and the principal wants to add that additional section, we make it happen. If they too believe that there's potential that some of the students are going to move out of boundaries, heard that some of these are not going to be attending, some of these students are not going to be attending, we might hold. And I had a third thought and I lost it. It'll come back to me.
Meantime, Miss Frank and then Miss Reed. Okay.
Sorry. So in red, additional language outlining factors for consideration. Is that referencing to students with IEPs? Is that an additional consideration in whether or not someone would have their open enrollment accepted?
So, Ms. Frank, thank you for asking that question because I recognize that this is difficult to understand. The way that the policy reads applies to all. We do not differentiate between students that are on a 504, students that are general education, students that have an IEP. Capacity, many things are reviewed for capacity. And when it comes to capacity specifically, the first thing that we're looking for is, do we have a teacher that is available to teach this student? And so for a student on an IEP, we need a teacher that is capable of teaching special education. And so that student, capacity for that student is not only the general education classroom, but also the special education classroom or special education services. So the data that our parent referenced, and she did a really nice job looking at all of that information. I would agree with her that you would see a difference because we have far more general education teachers than we do special education teachers, and therefore have more capacity on the general education side than we do the special education side. But I do want to also answer your question that I was not able to answer with certainty at the last governing board meeting. Your question to me was, do we have students in general education on wait lists? And yes, we do.
So if a parent of a student with an IEP wanted to open enroll at a different school, this portion of our policy could be used to justify putting that student on a wait list. Is that what I'm reading?
This portion of the policy would justify putting any student on a wait list.
So I'm really concerned with the percentage of students with IEPs who are being denied open enrollment. And so if we have 10 spaces at a school, for example, and you have 5 general ed students who apply for open enrollment and are accepted, and 5 students with IEPs who are then waitlisted when there's 10 spots open, that is discrimination, and that is wrong.
That's actually not correct. We just went through an OCR audit on this 4 years ago, and thanks to our parent, we double checked with our attorneys, and we are following the law correctly. Because if you don't do it that way, you're actually discriminating against the gen ed student. So we have to be consistent. And for example, let's say the school can have 800 kids in it, but only has 300 in it. But we only have this many special education teachers. It's very possible that the gen ed kid can go right through because of capacity, but not the special ed. So we have to be consistent. Even though we might have more, it might appear on paper that we're waitlisting students until we have enough capacity. We have to treat both sets of students exactly the same.
So I guess what I don't understand is if you had, for example, those 5 students with the IEPs who wanted to all enroll at the same school, why you wouldn't add staff to accommodate them to be able to open enroll there. So
we do.
And
We use
Ms.
the
Moffett-
same
can Ms.
logic. Maybe Ms.
Moffett
Moffett wants to
answer
talk about that.
That's an excellent question. We do sometimes when it's necessary for us in the same way, gen ed, for us to add staffing on the special education side, we will. It will come as no surprise to you all that we do struggle finding special education teachers, and that's something else that I was asked to bring forward, and not necessarily. It can be difficult to find a kindergarten teacher sometimes too, and if we need to add another section, we need to add another section, and we would perhaps put a substitute in that classroom. But that can be the difficulty in our special education department, is finding someone to staff that vacancy. And capacity can run, the review of capacity at a location can also include the fact that the location is not fully staffed with properly certified people that can appropriately service the students that are enrolled there.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Moffett.
Oh, Ms. Reed.
Yes.
Oh, hold on one second, too. And Mrs. O'Brien, if you have any questions, please, because I keep looking to you're not here. But I know you might have a question, so go ahead, Ms. Reed.
So it's on, it's underneath capacity.
Okay.
So it says the superintendent shall annually estimate how much excess capacity may exist to accept transfer pupils. And then if you go down to the bottom of the section, the last little paragraph says the governing board shall make the final determination of excess capacity and may require resident transfer pupils and or non-resident pupils to be subject to the enrollment priorities and procedures found below. The excess capacity estimate shall be made available to the public.
So the method that we do, the way we communicate to the public where we have capacity is a list. I believe we discussed that a couple of meetings ago. A list of campuses that have capacity and where, and a list of campuses that have limited capacity or no capacity.
So my question, and I thank you for that, and I looked at that again today. My question is where we as a governing body are determining there's excess capacity to enroll additional pupils.
Superintendent.
Well, it says that the superintendent shall come up with the estimate, but then it says the governing that the governing board makes the
Which
final
comes
determination.
back to Heather's and Jenna's point about the gold book. That's the first look into the future with our budgets when we do contingency. That's our best guess into the future, what we'll have for additional open enrollment. And we add and subtract from that contingency throughout the year to meet the demand.
Mr. Miglarino, I know you're listening. So how do other districts interpret this portion of our policy? I mean, practice-wise, because I know you know people.
President Ordway, I guess just because my time in Deer Valley has been so long, I'm not 100% sure. But I do know that most schools do determine, most districts that I'm familiar with or was familiar with in the past, determine some level of capacity and identify that similar to the way we do, but may determine a capacity that's set as a total number, either at a grade level or in an aggregate total for a school, and say that this school cannot take any more than X number of students.
Okay.
If I may add to that, because not all districts accept open enrollment every single day. They put in timeframes for that acceptance. So I would imagine would be easier to say we have 10 slots open. Our cushion can change from week to week based on the amount of applications that we accept from week to week. Our general rule, and if you did not know this, is what we try to do is keep 2 slots open in each classroom for potential of resident students to move in. And we have maintained that or been consistent with that as far back as I was a principal in this school district. It's not that we don't sometimes move above that, especially when we know that there are many open enrollment applications. We'll go ahead and let them begin to come in, and the principal want to close that cushion in, or if they know that they have 3 move outs, we'll go ahead and accept 3 in. But we do generally try and keep that much open in case resident students do move in. And that would be similar on the special education side.
Ms. Frank?
So, Mrs. Reed, if I'm understanding you correctly, was your question, why is the governing board not approving a recommendation brought forth to us by the superintendent?
That is correct. I just don't want, if it's saying that we're supposed to approve something, I just want to know, is it rolled into something that we've already approved, or does that need to be brought forth to us at some point to
As a
say
separate
that we
agenda
need to
item?
approve it?
Yeah, it's in the Gold Book concept. In fact, we talked about it that this year, increasing our Gold Book contingency for this very reason. We think we're going to, with the struggles of our neighbors, we think we're actually going to have another bump. And obviously our 2 zones that are exploding in students, we also think we need more contingent. So it'll be in the Gold Book when you approve the budget. We plan to increase it.
Mrs. O'Brien?
I just want to clarify because I think that, I hear Gold Book being said and Mrs. Reed asking for when do we approve this? And when we approve the budget, we are approving the Gold Book. And if Mr. Miglorino could confirm that I am correct in that, that would be wonderful.
Just since Ms. O'Brien's not here, that is correct.
So it is at that time that we are approving the number of or open enrollment spots, or our capacity, however you want to look at it. It's never been done separately.
President Ordway and Ms. O'Brien, yes, I would say that by approving the Gold Book, it has the staffing along in conjunction with the certified manual that has the class loads. The combination of those determine what the capacity would be. So if the class size is 33 and there's 3 teachers there, then there would be capacity for 99. But as Ms. Moffitt mentioned, our practice has been to reserve 2 spots in each of those classrooms for potential enrollment changes. So in that case, we would reserve 6 of those 99 spots for future changes that might exist within enrollment changes that happen. And I just wanted to maybe go back, if I could, to Ms. Tweedy's question about the actual enrollment, and maybe turn it over to Ms. Mock. She has the enrollment information that you were asking for in terms of how accurate is our projection to the first day of school.
Thank you. Looking at K-8, we are about 0.4% off of our projection from the first day of school. We track enrollment daily for the first 10 days and then weekly for the rest of the year after that. We were about 92 students under projected for this year. But the number of students doesn't necessarily relate to direct class sizes because it depends on how those students are distributed.
Mm-hmm.
High school was a little different. We were about 2.7% off. And thankfully, that as well was under projected. But looking at that too, not some of those schools, we had some schools that were under by about 80 students and some schools that were over by about 80 students, some that were dead on, some that were one off. And that's where HR comes in and works with the staffing in the schools and the principals, and then we'll surplus at some schools and move them to where they're needed. But overall, we were fairly accurate for the first day of school.
But I guess from what I've seen with the demographer and even what you're saying, if I'm not saying our overall, I mean, we've discussed that numerous times. The demographer's been extremely accurate as the total enrollment for the district, less so accurate at the enrollment at individual schools. And I would say even less accurate probably at the grade level and classroom level, in terms of who shows up on the first day of school. Because even if you're 2 students off in one class, that's 2 students you could have accepted. So I mean, I get where it is at the district level, but that doesn't help for this.
Yeah, it's a choice environment we're in. It's pretty volatile, so we have to be good guessers.
Yes, Ms. Reed.
I don't have an issue with changing the open enrollment policy to reflect when a student moves from the school that they're choosing to be at, they're open enrolled at, to go to their home school. My concern with possibly approving this would be without having the all the information with this, with special education open enrollment being a discussion item on the agenda. I don't want to approve this policy and then have to go back and change it if we decide to do something different or look at something else, or something else comes out of it with special education. Does my concern make sense to my fellow governing board members?
Sure. So if somebody wants to make a motion to table this to the very next board meeting after we have our discussion that's coming up later about what item is. It doesn't matter. If somebody wants to make a motion to table this to the next board meeting, that'd be
Excuse
awesome.
me, can I have a point of clarification, I
Yes,
guess?
ma'am.
Is Mrs. Reed asking for this item to be tabled until after we have the discussion? Oh, what other discussion are we tabling it for? I'm sorry, I'm not following.
At our last governing board meeting, I asked for us to have a discussion item in regards to special ed open enrollment specifically. And like I said, I understand the purpose of amending JFB because of the sending students back who have lost their open enrollment. And I don't have an issue with voting on that portion of it. My issue with voting is I don't want to not address special ed open enrollment and the issues that I have and that some of my fellow governing board members have. And I don't want to approve this and then we would have to go back and amend it again. Or does that make sense, Ms. Moffitt?
Yes, it does. An option that you do have, and I also want to mention one the board's consideration. An option that you do have is that any adjustments or special circumstances or processes you want put in place could be what we add to the regulation. And that does not require a big meeting like this and for that policy approval. If you look at the policy again, it is a general policy to be applied to all. If the board were to desire for the district to practice a little bit differently in any other way, that's something that we could discuss for the regulation. The other thing that I do want to note is that if you recall from the Friday update, I mentioned that we have a couple of campuses on hold right now with open enrollment, Sonoran Foothills being one of them. And so we are not processing open enrollment applications at that location right now because they're largely waiting for this dialogue. And that would be on both the special education side and general education side, both have wait lists. one of the things that our policy, this policy, the one you're adopting, if you choose to adopt the one we're recommending, or if you stay with the one that is current, the students that reside at Sonoran Foothills now that will be IEP or non-IEP, who will be changed by boundary, will go to the bottom of the open enrollment application list should they apply to stay. They would not have priority status to come back up. So as a couple of parents mentioned that is something that we need to tell everybody and make sure that they fully understand that. And that's something that the campus needs to begin doing because they have a long list of people that do want to come in.
And us tabling this would have a bearing on that. Without the regulations, how?
I guess I bring that up because Mrs. Reed mentioned the special education portion of that, and because of the dialogue the board had at the last meeting regarding SPED, if we do, the attorney's recommendation was that if you were to make special provisions for the special education students, then we would likely need to do that for the general education students, and therefore would have an impact for the Sonoran Foothills community. So we are on hold at that location. We can move forward, but I do want you to know that all of that is going on right now.
And Mrs. Ordway?
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. O'Brien.
And as I recall, some of the changes, because of what Mrs. Moffett just said, these are changes that we assured the community we would be enacting given the boundary changes that were occurring.
Mm-mm.
So further delays some of these parents and students knowing where their children will end up.
On the wait list? Yes. They're shaking their heads, yes. 1, 2, 3, shaking, yes.
So there was a question about...
I would ask that we vote now, and if we have to make changes, we go through the process we need. I mean, we're into the middle of February and quickly approaching
all right, so
the end of the school year and staffing.
So if we do make this vote now, when are we going to and how are we going to meet to discuss the possible regulations?
I think that should be a separate study session.
Correct.
It seems like a
I'm
complex issue.
Just want to find out when there will be time, since time is precious.
Yep, we could do that.
You say that, but
well, it turns out the players are pretty sharp. They have the information, probably most of it already. So I know Dr. McCusker knows this like the back of her hand. So does Ms. Moppet. So we can have a study session in the next couple of weeks prior to the next board meeting.
And that would be regarding
and again, this would be your feedback on how the regulations should be adapted or changed or morphed.
Yes, ma'am.
Your preferences.
When we have that session, one of the things I would want clarification on, the way I read the legal opinion in the board update was we were asking if we had a screening process on availability for Gen Ed but not SPED. I was thinking they would go through the same process as Gen Ed, meaning is there availability at the grade level in school, not the additional one, unless they had a special program that was maybe level C or D that wasn't offered on a campus.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
You're on the right path. It, as Ms. Moffett shared, it's always a capacity issue. So that's the determining factor.
But the question that was answered in the board report and the question I had weren't the same question.
Okay.
Right. So we need to clarify what we want to talk about.
Yep. If you could email me your questions, and that might.
And what I'd like to do is make sure that we do send the questions, and when you receive them, please send a response back to the individual, making sure that you're clear on what we asked you. So when we get the information, it is what we asked for.
Okay.
Because sometimes we're not, so clear on that. And Mrs. O'Brien, I thought I heard you speak.
I I'm curious if, and I'm not there in the room, so it is kind of difficult to see body language.
We're all happy.
If that's good. If part of it is this discussion about capacity, because when I heard Ms. Frank speak about if there's room for 10 and you have 5 gen ed kids take those 5 of those spots, why wouldn't we just have 5? We should let the other 5 special ed kids come in. But it's not, right. It's not just about necessarily seats, kids in seats. It's also about the capacity of the staff to handle that. Is that correct, Dr. Finch? When we say the word capacity, it covers 2 things.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that all of that could be gone over in detail and clarified and understood at that study session. So I am now going to. Yes.
Just could you send us the OCR report
Sure.
that you've
sure
been
we have that.
referencing? Could you
Yep.
send that to us? Thank you.
I would just, Miss Sheila was telling me too that we could do a study session next Tuesday because Tuesday's our favorite day. And Tuesday, this room's open, so we could do it then if that works in everybody's schedule.
Okay, we'll do that after the meeting. So I'm
Okay.
going to call for the vote now. If we can go backwards, or do we remember what we were voting on?
The motion on the table is that the governing board approve recommended language changes to policy JFB open enrollment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry. Those
O'Brien?
opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I said aye.
Okay.
All right, so the motion carries. Correct.
All right, item 5B. I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to ratify the attendance boundary for the new elementary number 31 school. And we do have public comments, speakers who wish to speak at this item. So as I call your name, please step up to the microphone if you want to sit in the front row of chairs.
I'm sorry, I was on a different page.
And do
Jared Geisler. I'm sorry, did you?
That's right. I did. Do you want to speak before we have another explanation and wait until that prior to us voting, or do you want to say what you have to say and then we'll talk? Now.
Okay.
Choice A then. Yes. Okay.
Why don't we have them all speak at
They
once?
may not all want. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Rachel Brown, Jessica Meredith, Lynn Brown, Garrett Brown, and Andrew Rankin. And was everyone here when I read the admonishment the first time? We're good?
They were
okay.
all sitting back there. I saw them.
All right, so if you'll please state your name for the record into the microphone.
Hello, my name is Jared Geisler. I reside at the North Gateway community, which is located west of North Valley Parkway and north of the AP Canal. Tonight, I have just one question to the board, which is, what boundary map did you believe you approved at the January 14th board meeting? On December 9th, in accordance with state statute and DVUSD governing board policy, the district held a community meeting related to the new elementary school and the proposed boundaries. The presentation at this meeting contained one map, clearly labeled Proposed New School Elementary School Boundary Changes, that clearly shows our community highlighted in yellow being within the E31 new school boundary. No other maps were presented. Further, on December 10th, the district presented a preview presentation to the board showing the proposed boundary for E31. When the first map was shown on the screen, the district stated, and I quote, "This is what we are proposing." The map on the screen again clearly shows our community within E31 new school boundary. The exhibit is labeled Proposed New School Elementary School Boundary Changes. The district does go on further in the presentation to show another map, zoomed much further out to include the Anthem area. However, when on the screen, the district states, and I quote, "It is not any additional information, but just being able to look at these all together," when referring to the different high school regions. On January 14th, the board voted on a motion to approve to create the new school E31 elementary school boundary and change the adjacent elementary school boundaries per the attached presentation. Again, this presentation included the same two exhibits from the December 10th presentation, with the first map being a very clear boundary map showing our community within E31. Residents, and I'm assuming board members, could only presume that the map labeled Proposed New School Boundary Elementary School Boundary Change Map was the map being voted on, and that any others, as the district stated previously, did not provide any additional information. There was no discussion or clarification by either the board or the district on which map was being presented. We believed our community was proposed within the new school boundary. Because of this, there was no public comment or public opposition. Subsequently, the board voted unanimously 5-0 on this motion. On Wednesday, February 5th, we attended a Meet the Principal event for the new E31 elementary school. It wasn't until the following day that our community was made aware that there was a boundary issue. I ask again, what boundary map do you believe you approved at the January 14th board meeting? Because the district is now asking you to go back on your vote and re-vote on a boundary map that was never even presented to the community on December 9th. I find it hard to believe that the board somehow skipped over the first map in the presentation, which clearly shows the boundaries, and voted for the second map without even a word of clarification. We have been misled with false information for over 2 months. As our elected board, we are asking you to vote no on this boundary map tonight and to request the district submit the map for approval that has been presented to us and to you on December 9th, 10th, and January 14th. Thank you.
Next. Rachel Brown. Please state your name for the record and into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Rachel Brown. I actually live in a different community than everyone else who's been speaking tonight. And I want to make sure that we're clear on this. I live within the Fireside boundaries, the Fireside HOA. This is actually south of where these people live. I am in the Ember Crest neighborhood, which is south of the preschool. I am still on the west side of North Valley Parkway. There's another community that is part of the Fireside HOA that I don't believe is represented here tonight because I don't think that they are aware that this is an issue. I don't think that they have any idea that they've been excluded, as I can't remember your name, the previous person who spoke has stated. Everybody in our community was under the same assumption that the map that you guys had voted on was the one that was presented. Unfortunately, I was not aware of this until a few weeks ago as well when I heard about it through a Facebook post. But I do want to make sure that there's a difference here. So this community that has previously spoken, I said, is different than ours. Being part of the Fireside HOA, these two little neighborhoods that are part of that HOA would like to attend the same school as the other members of their HOA community. We have the same community center. We attend the same community events. You know, the kids have friends that go between the two communities. We'd like to keep those two communities together. That's really important to us. It's part of why we bought our house. There were, no other houses to buy on that side of the street when we went and looked for houses. So that's why we decided to be a part of this. And we really would appreciate making sure that we all have the same understanding of what map was supposed to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question for the speaker.
Yes.
Clarification. So the two neighborhoods that you're speaking of in Fireside, are those Cactus Crest and Ember Crest? Are those the two neighborhoods?
That is correct.
And you were also presented or saw the incorrect map on December 9th?
My understanding, and I was unaware of all of this until about 2 weeks ago because my son is going to be in kindergarten next year. So not being part of the school board before, but the map that I was presented with was the same map that the person before me spoke with, where our neighborhood and the neighborhood north of us was in yellow. Cactus Crest, I believe, was included in that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. Jessica Meredith.
Hi, my name is Jessica Meredith. I also live in the Embercrest community of Fireside, and I too would like to see our community stay together. Like Rachel stated, we have a very large community center that is just for the Fireside residents. They do a lot of events. It would be extremely awkward for the children of our little parcel to go to these events and not know any of their peers because they've never met them. They don't go to school with them. We live on the other side of the street. I was presented in November with the original boundary, with the first boundary map, to which I did send an email stating that I would like to see the Fireside community stay together. It concerned me as a parent of a student that my child would be excluded and feel excluded at things like community events. Um, so for me, I mean that's just me as a parent and that standpoint. Um, you know, there's a few other things with it that concern me. One of the things would be, you know, if I didn't stay in the fireside community and, you know, my job moved or my husband's job moved and then we have to resell our home. Um, explaining that would be a mess. Oh yeah, you're part of this big, huge, cool community, but you, but you don't go to school with them. You don't. Oh, you get to see them at community events, but you don't know any of the parents, and your kids don't know any of the kids because they're not in the same school, and that just doesn't seem right. For me, for our side of the community, for Cactus Crest, it just doesn't seem right to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Brown?
Hello, my name is Lynn Brown, and I am also part of the Ember Crest neighborhood, and I have written a few emails to you, and I just wanted to come in here this evening to have you put a face with a name. Like the two others before me, we're all part of a very small neighborhood on the west side of North Valley Parkway. We're still included into our entire community center of Fireside. And 4 years ago, my husband and I chose to move into that neighborhood because of the overall community feel and for our children to find friends and everything through our community center, and also knowing that we were all going to the same school. I guess I just want to just express to you that it was really important and a really important decision for us to stay together and have our kids' friendships grow along with their school. And that is why I am here today, trying to keep our community together as a whole. And I hope that you can please have a revote or some other way to make the confusion of those maps clearer and keep us all just together for our kids and why we actually moved to the neighborhood and wanted to be part of a community together. So please help us make this right for us and keep our community whole. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next.
Garrett Brown?
Hello, my name is Garrett Brown, and I am also a member in the community of Embercrest, which is a part of Fireside. I reiterate what everyone else has said about our community and wanting to keep it together. We would have brought all this to the board's attention had we seen another map. None of this really came to our attention until about 2 weeks ago when the vote was done. And then another map was presented that we said, oh, our little community is not a part of the new school. We would just like to keep our small community within Fireside with the rest of Fireside. That's really what we're looking for, and we would really like to stress that to the board that we would like to keep our children all together. And I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Andrew Rankin.
Hello, my name's Andrew Rankin, and my daughter attends Sonoran Foothills. I'm a resident of the North Gateway community. I'm also on the board of directors for the North Gateway community. I can tell you that the community as a whole is confused and concerned. I've received several complaints from people about the situation with the redistricting of the school. This occurred to our neighborhood only a few years ago, and now the boundaries are changing again. As everyone else has reiterated, it causes a multitude of problems. One being we've invested our energy, our time, our money, our blood, sweat, and tears, our volunteer time into Sonoran, and we really like the school. To be told that we're going to be reboundaried is a hard pill to swallow, but when you're told that it's a brand new school, you kind of understand the needs of the growing North Valley area. The North Phoenix area is exploding. The state has agreed to sell state trust land hand over fist to the city of Phoenix so they can grow the North Valley, which they never intended to do initially and was not in their initial plans. And I'm sure that that's been a huge burden on the school system to figure out as it grows exponentially and will continue to grow for years to come. We ask you to reconsider the impact that it's going to have on our community. As it stands right now, we will have parents who will do open enrollment and everything they can to keep their kids at Sonoran Foothills because they've been going there for years. You will have parents confused by the situation who applied for open enrollment and will have their kids going to the new school. And then you will have kids going to Norterra because that's what the school now is boundaried for. So you will have small communities sending their children to 3 different schools. And these are communities, as other people have expressed, that are tight-knit. They go to community events together. Everyone knows everyone. We all know who each other are. And we would like to keep our community that way. We feel that it's not the best for the learning and the education of the children. They need a consistent, continuous learning environment. And the neighborhood feeling and effect is important on their upbringing and their growth, along with the dynamics of what happens when there's inconsistency in a community with education. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to actually read the motion again as we did not have a second. So I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to ratify the attendance boundary for the new elementary number 31 school.
However, we need to choose a map number.
And we'll need a second for the motion.
But if we're going to approve something, we need to be approving a specific map boundary, not just 2 of them.
We want to
Well,
approve
this
map.
is the way the motion was written.
Right. That's in the
So-
packet.
Right, but we still want something specific, correct?
Well, don't
It's
we
the
want
map
to
in the
approve?
packet
You have it.
and the board docs. There's only one map in board docs.
There's only one board map in board docs.
Hold on a minute.
That's the administration's recommendation.
and that
And
that
Jim
map.
has our presentation around this as well.
Hold on one second.
Still need a second though.
I second.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch. I just want to start off by saying that I owe this community an apology for the confusion that has been caused with the boundary maps. I wish I could explain where the second map came from. I created the presentation, but I cannot recreate where the second map came from. And so for that and the confusion that I've caused, I'd like to apologize to this community. I'll just quickly go through some slides that I have. So on November 18th was the initial community meeting. What I'm going to refer to as map number 1 was included in the presentation. Just again to identify this, not to rank it in any sort of order. On December 9th, the second community meeting is when the map that was in error was included in the presentation, and as has been already stated this evening, December 10th and December 14th, both maps, and I ordered them specifically because map 2 shows up first in the presentation, and then map 1 shows up second in both the December 10th and January 14th meeting. It is unfortunate. The map was not created by us, and I'm not blaming anybody because I'm the one that created the presentation. The maps are created by our demographer, and we don't have data to support map number 2 in terms of how many students would be affected. I've tried to create at least a best guess estimate. I think it's less than 100 students that we're talking about, but the data that we use to support the decision was all based on map number 1. Much like the community is saying that they were not aware of map number 1 or that it was being changed in any capacity, we did not become aware that there was a second inconsistent map until just last week. Because I don't know, I think we were focused on other areas while we were doing the boundaries. So I just want to reiterate what the objective was. The objective was to get a sustainable, balanced projected enrollment for all the schools that would be affected. And so the area in question is the red rectangle that you see there. It's, as has been indicated, several neighborhoods, 3 to be specific, this is map 1. So this was what was first presented in November, where you can see that I'll say west of North Valley Parkway is identified as the Norterra Canyon boundary. The second map, or map number 2, clearly shows that west of North Valley Parkway is in the Union Park attendance area. But I will tell you that the southern boundary of this map is unclear to me as to where the delineation would be, because, again, I don't know the origin of this map, and that's unfortunate. This is the data that we use to balance out the enrollment and the projections, and it is, again, dependent on map number 1. And if we're talking about 100 students and adding 100 students to the new elementary, you can see that they have the capacity to be able to accept the 100 more students if we were to accept the map number 2. But that would significantly reduce the number that's projected for Norterra Canyon. And the new elementary does have some magnet programs in it that we believe that there will be some strong open enrollment considerations at that campus. Remember, when we were doing boundary changes, these are just the students that reside in the attendance boundaries of map number 1. So this is what that looks like in our Google map. So this is what we have posted on our website. And this is one of the reasons why we actually got this brought to our attention, that this map was inconsistent with the map in error, I'll call it, the map number 2. And so as I see it, I think there are 3 options. I actually contemplated a 4th option here that was to have a consideration of open enrollment. But after consulting Ms. Moffett and finding out that Sonoran Foothills is already, as she indicated earlier, on hold for reserving any open enrollment applications, I don't know that an open enrollment solution can be necessarily something that would be something that we could rely on to resolve this matter. So our recommendation is to ratify map number 1 because that was the information and the data that we used to support it. I believe that the board could also approve map number 2, and we would just need to verify the student projections. Again, I'm using some estimates from our study grids that don't coincide exactly with that second map, and we would also need to clean up the delineation of at least the southern boundary to make sure that if the Cactus Crest neighborhood, for example, is included or not included in map number 2. Those maps are not detailed enough to be able to make that decision, or the board can direct us to come up with another option. But at this point in time, I believe that the speakers are correct. It is unclear as to what map the board did approve, and so we're asking for you to ratify one of the maps or direct us to do something to be able to clarify this.
Ms. Frank?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, with map number 2, Cactus Crest, Ember Crest, and North Gateway would be, all those 3 neighborhoods would be included in the new school boundary. Because we heard from the Fireside neighborhood in North Gateway.
Yeah, President Orway, Ms. Frank, I think the one neighborhood that's in question for me would be Cactus Crest. It's a very small triangle, so it's a little bit hard to tell from this map that they're actually in the boundary for the new elementary school with this map. If that's the desire of approving this map, then we can certainly clarify that and change the boundary to include that particular neighborhood would be in the Union Park. I will say that we did receive a number of emails from not only some of the speakers tonight, but others that have the same concerns that you heard this evening. But we also heard a couple folks provide us information that said that they want to remain at Norterra Canyon. But I will say it is a very small number compared to the people that have offered their concern and support to want to go to the new elementary school in these three neighborhoods.
But when you say 100 students, is that inclusive of the Fireside community and the North Gateway community? When you
North
say
Gateway
Union-
is part of Fireside, which is why they want to go.
No,
they're not.
I-
You're not at all.
Only Embercrest and Cactus Crest, in the three neighborhoods that we're speaking of, Embercrest and Cactus Crest are part of the Fireside community. North Gateway is not part of the Fireside HOA.
They're two separate neighborhoods.
Three
Okay.
separate neighborhoods, correct?
Well, if you're looking at, I guess I'm putting Cactus Crest and Embercrest. It sounds like, and I apologize to those of you in North Phoenix, up far north, but it sounds like they're all within the Fireside community, and then North Gateway is a separate neighborhood HOA. So when you say map number 2, Union Park has the capacity to accept those 100 students, is that number inclusive of both the communities who are here to speak tonight, both Fireside and North Gateway?
Okay, President Orway, Ms. Frank, when you say Fireside, are you talking about
Cactus Crest and Embercrest.
Yes. I'm projecting that there are about 100 students there, so I don't know that that's an exact number, and I'm just doing simple math on
Right.
the projection to be able to say that you could accept 100 more students. But I'm also pointing out that will deplete the number of students at Norterra Canyon more than what we had projected in trying to balance the enrollment. But yes, they could fit within Elementary 31, but I would say that if I had to hazard a guess, that it would become an issue in the future because of the potential open enrollment that could exist at the new elementary school.
Okay, so you're saying the Cactus Crest neighborhood, your best guess, and I realize you don't have firm numbers, Embercrest and North Gateway could potentially all fit within Union Park. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
That is what I said.
Okay. Okay, I think I have another question here.
Hold on while you're thinking about that,
okay.
Ms. Reed.
So I just want to clarify that there is another community, that Collins Creek, that sits north of the North Gateway community that's also affected by this. And so we had emails about Collins Creek also, but there wasn't anybody that was here tonight that specifically spoke to that, but they have the same concern. So, okay, yes, but so I just want to put it on the record that there's Collins Creek, North Gateway, and then Embercrest and Cactus Crest, the two Fireside communities.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Reed. A couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Miglerino for explaining where the miscommunication happened and for taking ownership of the mysterious map mishap. And for So I do appreciate that, and I also appreciate the number of constituents that you emailed, who had emailed the board explaining the situation. So that was very much appreciated. I do just want to comment that one of our top priorities was keeping neighborhoods together. And so from that perspective, it would seem to me that separating out Cactus Crest and Embercrest from the rest of the Fireside community does not fall in line with that particular value. So that's just a thought comment for my fellow board members to consider.
Maybe Mr. Miglino could talk a little bit about some of the logic that a demographer goes through. I think he talked a little bit about that today.
Is it
just
different logic than we've been listening to for the last month, or?
It's actually quite enlightening.
Okay, enlighten us again.
Just rather quickly, so the Fireside community is actually a non-contiguous neighborhood. They're not connected, and I'm not sure why that's the case, but we tried to use major landmarks such as the canal or North Valley Parkway to draw the boundaries and again to balance the enrollment. Honestly, I didn't even know that Cactus Crest was part of the Fireside HOA until it was brought to my attention last week. But so I appreciate, and we have used the Fireside HOA to determine boundaries when we did Sonoran. So it's not that we haven't considered that in the past, but it is a non-contiguous association of neighborhoods. So we do keep neighborhoods together as best we can, and they are separated by major landmarks, including North Valley Parkway and the canal.
Ms. Tweedy, thank you.
I just like to just put out real quick, and because we've been here since 5 with meetings, I would either be in favor of approving the map that they thought that, which was, I believe, the first map, map 1.
No, that's map
It's actually
two.
map 2.
Map 2.
Oh, map
It's
2.
actually map
Map
2.
2. Sorry. Or if there needs to be more of a discussion on it, I would not approve the map that they were unaware we were voting on tonight because we would have to get more input. So,
So-
I would be in favor of either one of
So
those.
with saying that, I'm going to call for the vote. I need a motion that actually has a number of a map on there so we can get that motion
Okay.
seconded and voted on.
Okay, wait.
So-
I move that the governing board approve map 2. Is that what we're trying to do?
You read my mind.
Okay,
All right,
let's do that. Does someone
so-
want to second
However,
that?
I'm going to let her read all of the information.
I move.
This is the Dr. Finch section where he talks about unintended consequences. So I'm just pre-warning you.
Yes, we all have been living with unintended consequences.
Okay.
So we're just going to believe that this is the right vote that we're going to make as soon as we get the motion and second it and vote.
Did we want to allow Dr. Finch to?
Well, I think you need, could we,
Sure.
if he has some unintended consequences that he wants to share, then he should share them.
Sure.
30 seconds. The whole point, or one of the points about the Union Park 31 school was to be a magnet to pull from Noterra and from Sonoran and the surrounding neighborhoods. Hence the reason why we went with the Spanish immersion. So by moving some more kids into that section, I think to Mr. Miglio's point, we could be defeating the purpose of making it more of an open enrollment school. That was my original vision when I arrived. So I'm worried that I'm really actually worried about Noterra Canyon than I am 31. 31 will survive, but Noterra Canyon, by moving these students out, those numbers that you have right there will be a lot less, at least by 100, maybe more. And remember, this is Mr. M's best guess. So by approving map 2, we could put Noterra Canyon down to 500 students overnight. Just need to let you know that.
We could do, what was the number you used?
I think, Mr. M, do you have that chart up that
Because
shows
if we're moving 100 kids,
we are projecting out here. Look at the trend line. If you take
In
100 out,
2829, it could go down
Correct.
to 590 based on removing approximately 100 kids, according to the chart in the presentations we've received before.
but that's just my observation.
That's out at 2829. Can I ask a question of Mr. Miglorino, please?
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
What is the projected capacity of school number 31?
President Ordway, Ms. O'Brien, it's just over 1,000 students. Again, that's the SFB capacity. It's all based on square footage, and because it is all under a roof, there's a bunch of hallway in there. So I would say that that's the SFB number, but I would say the actual classroom capacity would be a little bit south of that, being somewhere high 900s.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Miglorino. And I also would like to thank you for being so forthright in your presentation and offering your apology. Thank you very much, President Orway.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Hold on. All right, does anyone else have any questions? concerns?
I'll just say that my problem with approving map number 2 is, number 1, excuse me. Number 1 is that that's not the map the community was presented with and that they had the opportunity to comment on during the public comment period. So I have a problem with going back and approving it when that's not what they were presented with at several community meetings and board meetings. Do you want me to amend the motion? Do we need further discussion?
Can we amend it to include Embercrest and to clarify that we want Embercrest and Cactus Crest into map 2, because to me map 2 does not include Cactus Crest at the bottom. That's my interpretation of it.
So then,
Further exacerbate the problem.
so then if I were to,
There's 7 students that live in Cactus Crest.
so then if I were to amend the motion, then it would read something like this, that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to ratify map number 2, the attendance boundary for the new elementary number 31 school, to include the neighborhoods of Embercrest and Cactus Crest. Is that the gist of?
That would be my suggestion.
Second.
So we're not including North Gateway or the other neighborhood that Mrs. Reed talked about?
Uh-huh.
Well,
Are those not included in map number 2?
okay.
They are.
All right. We do not normally name neighborhoods because this neighborhood is that neighborhood, and then there might be one built in here and one built in there, and so now I have this. I don't know that we can have coordinates, streets, or something. But when I look at that map, where'd my map go? Wake up. Not me. The
Your
technology
iPad.
needs to wake up.
Can you put the map back there, Jim?
What I'm just trying to understand, is there somebody else in there that we don't know about? Is there a street, 100 block that?
President Ordway, I think if you were to name those neighborhoods and have us create the delineation around those neighborhoods in the motion, we would be able to draw that boundary.
And that would be, all right, so.
Okay, so shall I just officially make the motion?
Yes, please.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to ratify map number 2, the attendance boundary for the new elementary number 31 school, to include Collins Creek, North Gateway, Cactus Crest, and Embercrest.
Is that the complete list?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone
Aye.
not in favor say nay. Couldn't hear.
Ms. Tweedy seconded the motion. And I'm looking for.
Okay, hold on. Look at the motion.
It's Cactus Crest, not Cactus Creek.
It's Collins Creek, Cactus Crest with CREST.
Right, I'm just saying on the motion that was presented, the Cactus, the neighborhood was listed as Cactus Creek and it's Cactus
And
Crest.
she's correcting that right
And
now.
and Ms. Taylor is correcting that.
And now we can vote.
Okay.
Okay. And I have to leave and put Miss Frank in charge. I have a very sick dog right now, so I am going to leave.
Okay. All right, so I will run the meeting for the duration of the meeting. And are my fellow board members okay with me reading the motion since I already have the paperwork? All right. Okay, so that brings us to item 5C. I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve revision number 2 to the results-based funding list of qualifying positions. And I will need a second. Thank you, Mrs. Reed, you seconded? Thank you. Ms. Tweedy?
Not that we could amend this tonight, but I just want to know, we're going to have a discussion and talk about the employees who are excluded from this list.
Vice President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, we did provide a list of the positions that did not qualify. That is available in board docs.
Okay, but are you going to,
So I think I had made an agenda request to look at the positions that did not qualify to see if there were other funds that could be used to provide some type of a loyalty payment.
And just for clarification, that was for nurses specifically or for all the positions that weren't funded?
well, I would be curious about all the positions that weren't funded, but is, are we not allowed to pay certain positions out of this funding source due to statute? Or was that our decision?
Vice President Frank, Ms. Tweedy, that is our decision, yes.
It was our decision, or it's
But
the statute?
The statute reads that it has to be for instructional leaders, campus-based instructional leaders.
Okay.
Mrs.
So Mr.
O'Brien?
Maglarino, sorry.
Go ahead, Mrs. O'Brien.
So can you repeat what the statute says, Mr. Maglarino?
The statute reads that it's campus-based instructional leaders.
Okay. So
It also...
it isn't like the governing board chose not to include certain people just for a random reason. It is dictated by the statute, correct?
That is our determination, yes. And I just to be sure, it also says teachers and other instructional leaders is how it reads. So we made the determination that would be campus-based positions that provide direct instruction or support student learning.
Okay.
And the statute further goes on to talk about using the funds to further the achievement that ended up getting the results-based funding. And so we also took that into consideration, that positions that actually helped with student achievement on the standardized test would be positions that we would identify.
Can we get a legal opinion on that?
We can ask an attorney, yes.
Yeah, could we do that? And then, okay.
Should we table this item to the next board meeting, pending legal advice?
Vice President Frank, I mean, you're welcome to certainly choose that option. This is simply, the revision tonight is to add a position that does the similar responsibilities of a position that's already on the list. So it's just adding somebody. We can bring it back based on the legal opinion to be able to bring you a third revision if you'd like.
So all we're doing tonight is adding positions that weren't formerly there.
That is correct. So
Okay,
you're
and then
not,
we can
you're
still
not
get a
precluding
legal
yourself
opinion to bring it back.
from doing
Okay.
another revision or revisiting it. But you're welcome to table it, obviously. I don't need to remind you that.
Well, since we're adding a position and we can still get legal advice and bring it back at a later date,
Yes, let's call
I
for a
recommend,
vote.
I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No, the motion carries 4-0. We have already approved the consent agenda, so that brings us to action item 7A. Pardon me while I find that. It's getting late in the evening. Sorry, it just disappeared. Stand by for technical difficulties. Okay. It just disappeared again on my iPad. Okay, it's professional development, out-of-state travel. Well, I've got addenda contracts. Is it this one?
Sorry.
Are you guys still there?
Okay, I found it. Apologies for that delay. I move that the governing board approve all employee out-of-state travel per governing board policy GCCE.
I second.
Any discussion?
I had one question that I emailed Dr. Finch. Did you get a chance to ask
I
about that?
emailed it this afternoon to my staff. We can get that for you. I don't know if anybody found it or not, what the difference was. Does anybody know? I think I emailed it to Miss Moffett and Gail, I think is who I emailed it forwarded to. Heather might know what the difference is.
We did. Ms. Reed, Vice President Frank, members of the board, based on your request, I looked up in our travel tool to find the traveler and the trip specifically that you were speaking of. The conference goes from March 1st to March 2nd. The traveler is going a couple days early on her own expense, and the district is simply paying for the expense of the first, second, and third. So just the first and the second for the hotel, and then returning on the third.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure we were voting on the right amount of days. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Ms. Tweedy, did you vote?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the motion carries 4-0. I believe we all voted aye. All right. 7B. I move that the governing board accepts the administration's recommendation for reclassification.
I second.
Is there any information that you'd like to share?
Vice President Frank, members of the board, Dr. Finch, this is part of our apprentice program that we have within our transportation department. This particular individual qualified previously for a change of range from range 32 to range 33, which is a 2% increase in their salary. Unfortunately, this did not get caught before it was brought to our attention at this point in time. Normally, we would bring these to you. So this is a little bit off schedule, but we are asking the board to approve this effective July 1st of 2019, so that can be rectified in this fiscal year.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Next item, I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion, any questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-0. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. I move that the governing board approve the proclamation declaring February as Career and Technical Month in the Deer Valley School District.
I second.
Are there any questions? Don't
We would like
do
to
vote
hear
on
you
it?
read that. Nobody
Don't I-
wants to go home. No.
Read it and then we vote? Okay. All right.
No,
Where
she
is,
doesn't.
where
Are
is
we
it?
voting?
We're just going to vote.
Okay, well, where's my script?
She doesn't need to read it. We can just vote, can't we?
It's on the screen, yeah, but I'm not,
We
okay.
agree as posted. Let's just do that.
But I can't scroll.
Jenny, can't we just agree to how it is posted and not listen to you read all this?
Okay, I'll make it fast. All right, whereas February 1st through 29th, 2020 has been designated Career and Technical Education by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement, and whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways, and whereas leaders from business
business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas ensuring that employers have access to a qualified workforce is a crucial step in ensuring productivity among the business and industry communities, as well as continued American economic growth and global competitiveness. And whereas the Smith-Hughes Act, the first act of Congress to provide funding for career and technical education, was signed into law 103 years ago and allows us to celebrate how far CTE has come to become a powerhouse of America's economy. Now, therefore, I'm Jenny Frank, Vice President, Governing Board Vice President of Deer Valley Unified School District, do hereby proclaim February 1st through 29th, 2020 as Career and Technical Education Month in Deer Valley Unified School District, and urge all citizens to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by the career and technical education programs in this community, and to support and participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and productivity. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. I was afraid we lost you. Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0. So, future meeting dates are posted, and I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Wait a second. Miss Tweedy said, hold on. Did I forget something?
No, okay. Second. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mrs. O'Brien, motion to adjourn the meeting. Ms. Tweedy, second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't think so.
My next question was about adjourning the executive session. Before we adjourn it, I'm assuming you don't want to go over your goals right now. I know I don't.
You know me, I do, but no.
But could we do it Tuesday if we do the work session on the?
Good idea.
Just schedule an exec session there when we'll be awake.
I was thinking that was a great idea. I was going to go down the same trail. So do you want to schedule a Tuesday date or time?
You want to just do it before we do the whatever to discuss the SPED open enrollment?
What is the earliest that you can get here? 5:30 it is. So we'll do my goals 5:30 to 6, or do you want an hour?
Another 1-6.
Half hour? Half hour?
However long you think it'd take.
We had to schedule a half hour this last time, so.
Unless you want to start the other meeting at 5:30 and just say as follows, so we don't have to guess how long it'll take.
We could do that too.
That's a great idea.
Okay, we'll flip-flop them. We'll run it. We run it for 2 hours is normally how we run a study session.
Okay, so
Right.
we got to adjourn the executive session.
Correct.
Okay.
So I move that we adjourn the executive session.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, everyone.